You mentioned no insurance, and I know there's a kind of a common insurance policy if someone has an accident that doesn't have the insurance, but we don't want the system. We don't want people doing that either because, like, have you figured out a way of doing a bond or anything like that to insure yourself rather than everybody deciding deregister the car and not having an insurance?
You mean what would a public system be so that if everybody stopped doing that, we'd still be able to protect ourselves? Or are you saying,
Yeah, it's like basically
okay,
like you don't have an insurance as such, right? So if you have an accident with me, you're at fault. It's different if I'm at fault, but if you're at fault, I'm supposed to get my claim, my car fixed from your insurance. But I know that there's
right,
a in some countries there's a kind of common fund that's put aside for people that don't have insurance, but we don't want a system of that
interesting.
because yeah. So I'm just curious that
Yeah, I mean, look, insurance, this is the thing with insurance. It's kind of a good idea, but it's also a scam and it's also a gamble, right? Like it's first of all, this is something I learned early in when I got my first car, somebody backed into it and I had like a really small dent in it, right? But it was on a fender, which was a piece of metal. And I remember I went to a body shop in Santa Monica, California, it's kind of it's not Beverly Hills, but it's a more expensive part of town. And I went to a body shop and they gave me some quote that was like thousands of dollars, which was like, especially for me, I was still a teenager. I'm like, I don't have that kind of money, right? Um, but then I went to the other side of town and I had somebody fix it for a couple $100 and it looked great. So what I learned is that the expensive sides of town, the reason everything is so much more expensive is because they're billing insurance, right? It's the same way the healthcare system works. Like when they know there's insurance that has to pay, they know they can charge an arm and a leg. And so, they gave me this price expecting like, first of all, somebody's insurance is paying for it. The person who hit me, they're going to pay for it with their insurance. So, we can charge whatever we want. Not only, we're not just going to pull the dent out and, buff it out and repaint it. We're going to take the entire piece off, which isn't necessary. And all the pieces on the bottom, like the wheel well and like all these plastic bits around, we're going to charge $30 to put, per each new screw that's going to go in there. And they just inflate the price. So insurance actually inflates prices. But to increase this, they've made insurance mandatory. And they don't do this to benefit the repair companies, right? They did it just to ensure that everyone's buying their product, which is insurance. But the side effect has been that makes all the prices come up. So yeah, it's all ultimately a scam and it's all gambling. In reality, what a lot of people can and have done is, and this is even codified into a lot of the states where if you have money set aside and it's the minimum amount. So the minimum coverage for an accident is something like 30 or $50,000. If you have that money set aside, then you just need proof that you have that money and you're insured. So if you ever get into an accident, you can just pay for it, right? Because my parents were always trying to terrify me of this when I first got my car, right? Especially in Los Angeles, what happens if you crash into a Mercedes, right? They're like, we're gonna lose the house, right? That's their thought. And sure, there are really terrible accidents out there where, people died, lots of property damage and everything else. But what people don't realize is like 90% of the car accidents are small and they're not very expensive. So we're paying all this insurance so we can all have, 50, 100, $1 million in coverage. But it's like none of that really gets used, and these insurance companies are just raking it in. So are there alternatives? Sure, you can still have insurance. And maybe there's even like a blockchain solution where it's like money that's being staked, and then you have some sort of public system that can verify and vote on whether or not there should be a payout, things like that. There's all kinds of interesting solutions, but basically forcing people to participate in any of them it creates all this corruption and false profits and everything else. But this is another interesting thing too that I think that we should consider when we're talking about this is when you decide to like get in your car and get out there on the road, like the road is a dangerous place, right? Let's just all like agree, okay, sure, it's a dangerous place. You're getting in your car and you're getting out there. You could get hit by another car. You could get struck by lightning, right? Like the world itself is a dangerous place.